I beat them to it. Not a single person in the damn chat could tell me I was late. I beat them. I actually beat them. I didn't just have to start on time. I have to time it to the perfection, like to the second, because when I click go, it is about a 4-second delay, and I got it exactly right. And not one of you damn whingers managed to tell me I was late. How's that?
Wow, I didn't realize there was competition. Okay.
I am pretty happy with myself. I think that might be the first time nobody had a whinge at me for being late.
Well done. There's a first time for everything.
There's a first time for everything.
I need to start the show with just a gentle reminder for anyone who didn't see Saturday's bonus episode.
Woo! Oh.
Yeah. See that? Look at it. Look at it in all its glory.
It's such a good likeness of you. It really does. I mean, it's more my color. I got to admit, I am more that color. Although this lighting is actually quite flattering on me. I should come to random hotels in the middle of nowhere more often. I'm not red today.
This has made me so happy. So thank you to Phonic Photon for making a 3D printed Spicy Carlz. Yes.
Phonic Photon, you're a disgrace. When you meet a junkie, you're not supposed to feed their habit. When you meet an egoist, you're not supposed to give them a bigger head. All right.
I'll strap it to my mic. There we go. Sit there
Sorry, is that Carly's strap on now?
Oh, yuck. Stop it. We're serious. This is a serious podcast.
Oh yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that one. Hey, Saturday was amazing. You did really well. I was so happy. I know you're amazing in a podcast, and you were amazing in Battleground Melbourne Live when you kind of had the script to work from, but I've actually never seen you in front of a crowd without any of that. Like, that's actually, like, I'm not saying you were going to be bad, but I'd never seen it before, and you were like super comfortable.
You thought I was going to tank. I was made for it.
Okay, listen. What I'm saying is the exact same thing that everybody said about my comedy. My stand-up comedy. I got the same feedback over and over again. It was better than I thought it was going to be, which, I'm like, does that just mean you had really, really, really low expectations? Like, is that a compliment? I'm not sure that that's a compliment. I think people just had really, really chronically low expectations, and because they laughed like one time, they were like, oh well, I guess that was better.
100%. I reckon. Yeah. No, I heard your set. I heard part of it because people were talking to me, and I heard that people laughed. So well done, you. Yeah.
Well, look, I kind of been. Look, it's this weird. You go into this weird sort of headspace where I don't really remember much. I do remember noticing that people laughed and feeling obviously better about that, because I'm like, I need to get that first laugh. Otherwise, like, this is going to go downhill fast. And that happened pretty quickly. It happened in my first punchline when I expected to get a laugh for the first time. I got a laugh for the first time. And then after that, I don't really remember it, to be honest. It's all just kind of a blur.
VN Bogani, you were missed. We did give you a shout out, but you weren't there. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us my new nickname. Well appreciated. No, it was really, do you know what was really nice about it is the conversation, the camaraderie. And I just think that there seems to be a bit of a call for more of those kind of community-led events where you can just get in a room with a bunch of like-minded people. And I'm standing by this. I want to set up an Oddies like dating service. I want you guys to meet significant others. I want to play Cupid. Take that, Carlz. You're thin in real life. I am. Thanks.
Yeah. See, my problem is I've always got 3 cameras pointed at me, and we all know that the camera adds 5 pounds. And so when you got 3 cameras, that's 15 pounds. Like, it's rough. It's rough out here.
So what you're saying is I'm anorexic, or?
Look, I'm not. Well, I'm not going to comment on a woman's weight. I'm not that crazy. I'm just commenting on my own.
Yeah. To be fair, you guys only ever see me from like here up, so.
Yeah, it's sort of, if you just had that higher camera angle, it'd look like all those dating photos of all like all the chubby chicks who just want to look, like you just got to remove all the double chins.
That's a way better angle. Why isn't my laptop on a 1 minute? I've got to correct that. Just so happens.
Dear.
To do that. Can you see what's behind me? Oh no, hang on.
Oh, yes, I can. I had noticed that it was different, but I hadn't actually stopped and thought about why. Yeah, that's
I'll turn
cool.
my camera.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that's the backdrop for in the studio now. Excellent.
New set. Who dis?
New set. Who dis?
Oh, that's
Well, I tell you what
bizarre.
though. My set isn't so good today.
It looks like you're on the toilet.
Yeah, and how will we know when we're 2 hours in if the TV is not behind me? You're right. This is a problem. I might be on the toilet. I can neither confirm nor deny. It's that feta from last week. It finally hit me. I'm just probably going to be stuck here all episode. No, I am in a pokey little Airbnb room in Sydney because I had a conference to go to and I booked the flights and I completely forgot to book a hotel. And by the time I realized the mistake, the hotels wanted $1,600 for 2 nights accommodation in their like mediocre rooms. And I'm like, I know I'm grifting and I'm being paid by like ASIO and Mossad and I think probably the Russians at this point. And I don't know, maybe I'm a liberal shill. I don't know. I'm a shill for lots of people. Somehow, I still can't bring myself to pay $800 a night for a hotel room. So we found an out of the way
Oh, sorry, no, keep going. No, you
we found an out of the way Airbnb and I'm wedged in a corner right now with a floor standing lamp as my lighting.
Oh, well, it's to be fair, it could be worse.
Could be a lot worse. I'm actually really happy with the picture, to be honest.
So once again, we are Mossad shills. Someone went to the effort to write a comment that it's evident due to who we had on the stage with us, who's paying us. And can I just say, guys, that Mossad money would be very beneficial right now because I don't know if you guys know how much it is to put on a live show, but it was a lot of dollars. Yeah, it means that we lost a lot of dollars. So that Mossad cash would be well appreciated.
Would come in handy.
I keep saying though, if you're going to accuse me of taking cash, like I'll take it. If everyone's already thinking we're taking hard cash, all right, well, come on then.
So anyway. To tune people in, and this is not a complaint. This is the career we've chosen. This is what we choose to do, and I loved Saturday. But to tune you in, Saturday cost us over $13,000 to put on, and ticket sales brought in less than 10. So we're trying to make up the rest, through merch and everything else. And again, there's not a complaint. Like we choose to do this, and we chose to put on that birthday. But for the people that are sitting there running the numbers and like, oh wow, how much money must they be making? There's a reality behind that. That look at how much money we have to spend to be able to do the awesome stuff that we get to do. Now it's worth it because I tell you, Saturday I'm going to remember for a very long time. That was an incredibly fun day.
It was so good to finally meet people.
I do have one complaint. And that is people lined up to talk to me. I mean, it was hordes of people. I don't know if you saw, it was like 1 million screaming fans. I lost count after about 6, but I'm sure it was about 1 million people all lined up to talk to me. I'm signing books. I'm chatting with people. I'm exhausted. It's been, I don't know, I think it was about 2 or 3 years of nonstop meet and greet. And then I turned around and there were still people lined up to talk to you, even though my line was 0 and your line was so I think some people got confused. I think some people joined your line by mistake. I think that must be what it is.
I think more people just wanted to meet me than you, and that's wonderful, isn't it? Isn't that nice?
No, I figured it out. Brainwave. You are a woman and you talked for too long. That's what it is. There was like 4 people and you just spent a half an hour with each of them. That's what it was.
It wasn't just the fact that I had 50 people lining up and you had 2. That's okay.
Look, my memory is very different to that. I'm going to live in my memory.
Just quickly, someone mentioned our mic volumes are a bit different. Is that a bit better? I just turned mine up a bit. Let me know if that helps.
Carl's up a bit or Topher down.
I turned mine up a bit. So one more thing, guys, to all the oddies who, am I pointing at the right bit? Where am I pointing? There? Is that right?
Just go here. Just here. That's it. Yeah.
Everyone that is supporting us by being an OG Oddie, which by the way, you can't be anymore. We've got new tiers coming out. All of that goes towards paying for this podcast to keep going. So things like StreamYard and Buzzsprout, they cost us a fortune. So thank you. We couldn't do it without your support. We're very genuinely thank you. Yeah. I think people, like it's great to have so many people supporting us, but I think people underestimate what's involved to do that kind of production. Like on the weekend, those who came, you would have seen We had a full production crew. We had 4 cameras. We had PA equipment. We had a switching desk. We had a mixing board. We had people running around. Like it was way more legit than I expected it to be.
Now, one thing that I learned, on the weekend, was to not judge the PA system by just the number of seats. Because we did the maths, we said 200-seat room, 2-speaker PA system will be just fine. What I didn't account for was that it was a long, narrow room. And so my apologies to the people down the back. I'm led to believe that you guys were having trouble hearing, and that's why they were trying to turn the sound system up, and that's why there was a bit of feedback sometimes. And so we kind of got stuck in a bit of a spot there. So apologies to those of you, anyone that had trouble hearing at any point. I'm sorry about that. Lesson learned, we'll have multiple speakers down the room next time. We won't use that venue again. It was a great venue. I actually really liked them. But the lack of a lift, where there was confusion about the lift. So those of you that were gracious enough to let us carry you up in your wheelchairs, thank you for being good sports about that. That was, we asked them, do you have a lift? But it was in the context of a conversation we were having about boxes of merch and everything else. And they said, yeah, we have a lift. And what they meant was like a big box-sized lift. That's what they had, not a person-sized lift. So that's on us.
Is it gantry or something?
Yeah, like a dumb waiter type of system. And so we went in there sincerely believing they had a lift, and then found out that wasn't the case. So thank you for being good sports. But look, all in all, I mean, so many things could have gone badly wrong, and none of them did. And I think it just went really, really well. So thank you to everyone for coming.
Yeah, it was actually, it was very, very heartwarming, to be honest. But I figured out where our next location will be, and everyone up in Queensland will be very impressed, because our next location will be none other than the Trump Tower in Surfers Paradise. Yeah.
Look, I've sent him a text just to ask, and I'll let you know when he texts me back. But I've asked if we could actually have an Oddie event on opening night instead of him. Like, no one's interested in seeing Trump. No. He should have the Oddies and in like the ballroom for like a gala event on the opening night. So I'll let you know when he gets back to me. He might even text me back during the show. I'm not sure.
Oh, he's always on his phone, so I wouldn't.
Well, he never sleeps. He never sleeps. That's the thing. Like he could reply at any time. So just hold on for that one, guys.
I do love this. A new Trump Tower. It's meant to be the best resort, the best, the greatest.
Yeah.
Did I freeze while I was doing that? Because I was on a different screen. Anyway.
You probably did, but I was laughing because you sounded great. Actually, that was a pretty good impression.
I was working on it. I've been trying.
Yeah.
But,
no, it shows. It was good.
So if we have a look here, like, I will say this, Trump's taste is a little gaudy for me. But, I mean, you've said it on record that Mar-a-Lago is actually way more impressive in person. And I don't doubt that, because Versailles is as well.
Yeah, I had the exact same view on Trump's taste from all the images and videos I'd ever seen. And then I walked into Mar-a-Lago, and in context, it actually works really, really well. Yeah.
And I mean, anyone that's been to Europe would have seen the same kind of levels of opulence, of course. But yeah, I think this would be actually a bit of a coup. Like, it's just something to be excited about. You know, someone doing something outlandish and exciting in Australia. They're saying it's going to be one of the tallest buildings in the country. So 340 meters in height.
I've heard the tallest, but I haven't actually looked it up to verify. Can I just say, building a skyscraper on the Gold Coast is like, yeah, whatever. Like, there's already a bajillion of them. Be brave. President Donald J. Trump, my challenge to you, be brave. Come and build a skyscraper in Albury, right? No one will see that coming. Build the tallest building in Australia, right there in the heart of Albury. Then you'll have everyone's attention.
Anyway, I thought that was a bit exciting, but we've got some news to jump to today. Do you want to start with our namesake of today's episode?
Well, look, we probably should, because we always leave that till last and then never get to it. So let's actually just get right into it.
All right. So let me go through my 4,000 tabs here and pull it up. Why have I not got it saved? 1 minute, just a clerical error here. So Australia has a bit of an issue with some of our rogue senators. And the fact that you didn't see this, but I did, was pretty outrageous. So why have I got 2 TOFAs? Why can I add another TOFA?
Don't add that one. So that's my laptop, which is here, because I've got my phone because the camera's better. That's what's looking at me. And then my laptop's here for when I want to control things and read the comments, because even with my glasses, I cannot read the comments on this screen.
Gotcha. I was like, why have I got 2 TOFAs?
It's TOFAception. You know what? If I add this one, Or how about I instead of removing?
Ah, very clever. Well done. Technology, hey? Anyway,
It works.
enough about you. Let's look at Australia's favourite senator, Senator Payman, and her comments today. All right, let me play this for you. Oh, God.
Real genius. Real genius, this one.
All right.
Tell Pauline Hanson that if she doesn't like how things are here in Australia, then she can really pack her bags and go to the US and continue being best buds with Trump.
Yeah, that's an attempt at being clever. But this is someone being clever who at best, all she can do is mimic and copy and try and parody. So she's trying to parody the whole sentiment around if you don't love it, leave. But if you don't love it, leave is quite a catchy, there's the alliteration at the end, love it, leave. It's a catchy, it's only a handful of words that contain a tremendous amount of meaning. She used a whole lot of words to contain very little meaning, beg your pardon, and there was no real art in it. So it was kind of like she's thrown the punch and it really hasn't landed. The other funny thing is that Hanson is an Australian fighting for Australia to remain the way it was. And people like Marine Faruqi have come from outside of Australia to fight for Australia to become something that it wasn't. One of these things is not like the other.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it plays off.
Well, it won't. I can tell you already. It has already backfired.
It has not. And one Spicy Carlz could not resist. Oh. So a reel
wait. Charge your glasses, everybody. Carlz is about to play us a reel of Carlz.
It's Carlz Inception. I couldn't help it. So just quickly before I play it, though, I mean, Pauline Hanson was hauled across the coals for making that comment around Marine Faruqi about if you don't like it, piss off back to Pakistan. And was she expelled from the Senate for that, or she got in trouble for it, or she got sued or something? I can't remember. I don't remember, but she certainly got finger wagged and tongue lashed. And they were really offended by it. And I just find it extraordinary because, again, like, when I play this reel, I'm going to sound like I'm joining the NSN, and that's not the sentiment at all. I am, as I said a billion times, I am pro-immigration so long as that you're coming here because you recognize that Australia is a superior country and you want to be a part of it. And what I mean by superior is, why else would you leave your home country if you weren't leaving to go to a better one? Right. And that's what I mean by superior. We're superior in the sense of freedom, of what we value, of our, I was going to say democracy, but let's use that loosely right now. You came here for a better life. And if you want to come here for a better life, it would make sense that you assimilate and you celebrate what it was that made this country something that you wanted to flee to. Whereas she makes comments regularly supporting Iran and saying that how women had the right to speak in Iran, and that caused massive backlash because she just sounded incredibly ignorant. But she ended up being on Iranian state TV for that. She's made comments about pro-Palestine, and it's very much the sentiment of fundamentalist Islam. And that is exactly what she escaped. And I just find it incredibly rich that someone who fled here as a refugee, who came here under asylum, to then turn it around on her host country and say that if we don't like it, we should leave. I just think it's absolutely outrageous.
To buttress what you're saying before, I reject any notions of racial superiority, but cultural superiority is a thing, right? We have, and it's very imperfect, right? All these things are flawed, and that's why I do the TOEFL project. I talk about all of our problems all day long. So all of these things are flawed, but at a fundamental level, we have or try to have equality before the law, high levels of social cohesion, high levels of social mobility, which, by the way, is a really key indicator of social health. Places like India, where the caste system still unofficially exists outside of your big metropolises, it still is very much entrenched. If you're born poor, you stay poor. If you're born rich, you stay rich. Social mobility is very, very low. Social mobility in places like Australia is the highest it's been in human history. At no other place or time in history, other than a handful of Western countries today, has it been possible for a refugee who doesn't even speak the language to arrive on the shores and end up in the Senate criticizing the country that welcomed her with open arms? That in itself is a miracle. It's a modern invention that happens in Australia and only a handful of other countries around the world. So her very presence as a senator in the Australian Parliament is proof enough that she ought to be grateful that she's here, and she certainly shouldn't be trying to change us from being the country that welcomed her into being one of these other countries that she talks about where people can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my frustration too. And you think about what it took for Australians to have the freedom and the privilege that we have today. And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
really, and this is where, as much as I take the kind of the blunt approach to criticizing Australians and Australia at times, I do it because I
mm,
love my country and I want
yeah,
us to be better and I want things to improve. But this is where I get really sentimental about Australia and where I get, pardon me, really worked up about what it took for us to win World War II and World War One, by the way, and to be able to have the freedoms that we celebrate today. I think there is far too much distance between that and the people, the generation growing up. And I think Payman's,
yeah.
correct me in the chat, guys, I think she's 27, 28, somewhere there. Like she's Gen Z. Gen Z. Anyway, this is my retort. So let me just bring this up. I
Here
got
we
to get
go.
work.
Hanson that if she doesn't like how things are here in Australia, then she can really pack her bags and go to the US and continue being best buds with Trump.
There is something profoundly jarring about an Afghan-born woman who fled to our shores as a child in 2003 seeking refuge from tyranny, now telling Pauline Hanson, one of the most enduring voices for the everyday Australian, to simply pack up her bags and leave if she doesn't like where we're heading. The sheer audacity, the breathtaking ingratitude. Payman's family didn't come here by accident. They chose Australia because it was already known worldwide as one of the safest, freest societies on earth. Picture the Afghanistan she fled. Under Taliban rule, a humanitarian crisis deepens daily. Over half the population, 20 million people, face acute hunger. Women and girls are erased from public life. They're banned from education. They're barred from work. They're forbidden to even speak out loud. Maternal deaths are climbing and girls as young as 9 are sold into marriage. That is state-sanctioned child exploitation and pedophilia. Just last week, the Taliban legalized husbands beating their wives and children. Domestic violence is now the law. This is fundamentalist Islam's triumph. A regime treating half of its people as worthless animals. And yet, this is the culture she demands we embrace through ideology we never voted for. The paradox is staggering. She lectures us on tolerance, yet in neighboring Iran, women shed blood in the streets, burning their hijabs, dying to escape the same fundamentalist culture. In Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, our freedoms, our speech, assembly, and women's rights would be crushed. We'd have to submit or die. Yet here, we've granted her the privilege of wearing her hijab in parliament itself, a symbol her Iranian sisters are fighting to destroy. Her family fled to Australia for the rule of law, equality, and a fair go that was forged through sweat, sacrifice, and blood. Hannah Ardent said rights live only inside nations strong enough to defend them. In Afghanistan, millions of women have no rights. Yet here, Payman could learn, work, show her face, and even rise to the Australian Senate. What a testament to our generosity. Yet she spits contempt at those who made it possible. She wields love it or leave it against Pauline Hanson, a woman born here, fighting decades to protect the culture that saved Payman's family. Australia has always been a country that welcomes people who genuinely need refuge. But there must be basic reciprocity and reverence for the nation that saved you. There must be gratitude to those who died defending your right to speak and loyalty to the civilization that set you free. That safety and that freedom and that stability existed before you arrived, and it existed because Australians built it and defended it. Senator Payman, we gave you the privilege of representing those same Australians in Parliament itself. And yet you disgrace the diggers who never came home and the families who built the Western nation you fled to. You do not deserve that seat or 1 cent of taxpayer money if you besmirch those fighting to preserve what they bled for. Never forget, every right you have, every word you speak, someone paid for that with their life. So how dare you dishonor them with your contempt?
I really, really, really want to give you a hard time and just be like, here, I bought you some pearls to clutch, but actually you're spot on. And I can't really, yeah, okay. So you shifted seamlessly from Iran to Afghanistan in there somewhere. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but putting aside details, the broad brush of what you're saying is exactly correct. And like I said, I reject outright any notions of racial superiority, superior DNA, but I definitely embrace notions of cultural superiority. And for someone to come here from those countries because they didn't have a future there, and they came here for a better future, and then to look down on and despise the culture that gave them such a good future that they're now in the House of Parliament, I have no time for it whatsoever.
So just to clarify the Iran and Afghanistan thing, I'm talking about her being an Afghani and coming here for a better life. And what she's trying to implement or wanting us to embrace is exactly what the Iranians are trying to free themselves from. She's trying to encourage the hijab and wants people to embrace Islam. Iranians, who she said, by the way, on state-sponsored TV, that women have freedom to speak and women are more free in Iran than they are in the West. She's on the record. You can go and look it up. And that is why I can say the truth. This is an Afghani woman who has seen in her own country how subjugated women are, how terribly half of their population is treated, who has the audacity to come to Australia and be elected into our own freaking parliament and sit there and tell Australians that the way they think and the way they view things is wrong. Then why did your family come here? That's my point. Iran right now is trying to get rid of this, and you're trying to encourage it here in the country you fled to. I don't understand. Yeah, no, it makes no sense. But also, these sorts of things aren't landing anymore. 3 years ago, she would have had the media flocking to her side and all the lovies and all the activists getting around her. I think the room has changed, and she's failing to read that shift. She's failing to read the change in the room. Now, can I segue away from that, or have you got a bit more on that? No. I did have one thing to show quickly, because the sentiment around Islam at the moment is something that, whether or not they like it or not, it's bothering Australians. We're seeing it with Mamdani at the moment in New York, and there's been a massive congregation of Muslims in Times Square. They're now playing the call to prayer at 5:30 in Brooklyn. So it would seem, if you were objectively looking at this, that there are two standards here. Christians don't do that. Jews don't do that. Muslims have the call to prayer 5 times a day. It is loud, and praying in the middle of streets is intimidation. You can tell me that's part of their culture. I call bullshit. It is intimidation. You have mosques, you have private homes, you have plenty of places you can pray. Needing to do it in the middle of the street, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And
choosing busy intersections. Like, this is the same as when Antifa go and glue their hands to the pavement or hang themselves off the gantries over a bridge. The disruption is the point. It's the attention that they're seeking.
And so we've already got places in Western Sydney that basically are no-go zones for non-Muslim people.
Careful, you'll be in prison alongside Pauline Hanson soon, the way you're going.
Well, the interesting thing is, if I was to go in there, I would be looked at like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? I would be intimidated out of that part of Australia. And so the reason I bring this up is, obviously we had the Bondi shooting most recently, and what was blamed for that was not the radical Islam that had indoctrinated the two shooters. It was white nationalist rhetoric. It was right-wing extremism. And now they're doubling down on it. And so much so that today in Moonee Ponds, there was a stabbing. The man yelled, Allah Akbar, and the press won't touch it. No one is talking about it. What does Allah Akbar mean? Who normally yells Allah Akbar? It's not Jews. It's not Christians.
Yeah. So culturally, Allah is actually a word for God that is not just Muslim. It's actually, it covers across a lot of languages. One of the things that can confuse people is, for example, Christians in Indonesia will refer to God as Allah. They're not referring to the God of Islam. It's actually just their word for God. So that can confuse Westerners. But Allah Akbar, this God is great chant, is pretty much universally associated with Islam, and specifically when it's chanted whilst stabbing somebody, that's pretty much universally associated with Islam, no question there.
So I'm just going to play this quickly. Where are we?
Witnesses have told us 2 men were yelling at each other outside the shopping centre. One has pulled out a knife and stabbed the other in the neck. 4 or 5 members of the public have quickly jumped on the attacker, pinning him to the ground in a citizen's arrest until police came. They didn't take long. Witnesses tell us they were here undercover police in less than 5 minutes. The attacker yelling as he was pinned to the ground.
So you get the point.
Yeah,
Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. I'm sorry, but we know what that means. We know why they're saying it. This is just another example of what happens when we can't have an objective discussion around the actual truth. This will get way worse because they are trying to avert that. The longer they make it more difficult for Australians to talk about the reality, the worse this gets. And I'll give you an example. I'm not going to play the clip because I know you don't want me to. Thomas Sewell was in court today, and as they do, they tried to get him for a gotcha. Now, Thomas Sewell, I'm sure you guys have all seen it. He gave a speech talking about what they were protesting about and how they were talking about how they were worried about migration and whatnot. The news are making him into a martyr. They are playing into his hand. They are doing exactly what he wants. And the more they try and mock him, the more they try and like get these gotchas. The same what they do to Hanson. They're actually creating a mess. They're making this way worse. So if we can't have a conversation about how Senator Payman's words are disgusting and she shouldn't be saying them, and then we can't call out Muslim extremism when they commit one of the biggest terrorist attacks on Australian soil, and we can't call out this guy who's now yelling Allah Akbar and the people who are praying on the streets in Sydney in the middle of a protest, I'm telling you now, this gets way worse. And it ends in bloodshed on both sides, as in people are going to start taking these matters into their own hands if it continues to be ignored by the Albanese government.
So can I ask, who was that clip from? Was that Channel 7?
Yeah, it was Channel 7.
Channel 7, yeah. So they have an interesting history. Something that I've noticed about Channel 7, this is just my opinion. They, I think, do a better job than a lot of the other channels at trying to say the unsayable. So they didn't have to play the clip where you could hear the audio of him yelling Allah Akbar. They didn't need that in the report. Now, they didn't say, that the voiceover didn't say he was yelling Allah Akbar. That would have been too far. They would have got themselves in trouble if they'd actually pointed that out. But he was yelling, cut to him yelling that. Channel 7, I think, actually try and push as far as they possibly can towards the truth without getting themselves into trouble for it. And I think that was another example of it there.
Well, isn't Channel 10's owned by Paramount, and Channel 10 is owned by Paramount. Channel 9 is owned by, who is it? And it's left-leaning.
I couldn't even tell you. I don't know.
I will say this. Channel 7 has definitely gone very hard on the Labor government, especially in Victoria. It is nice to know that there are some contingents of the mainstream media that still understand their job and value their profession.
Yeah.
But let's contrast to this clip here, this question here. Why hasn't Grace Tame been reported to the federal police, but Pauline has?
Yeah.
Because it's one-sided, guys. That's what you need to understand. We have two-tier justice system. It's rules for thee and not for me, and that's the way it is until we call it out. And so just to be clear, these reels that I make, I would not be making these unless I felt incredibly passionate about it. These are not helping my career at all. As far as my career goes, this is the best way to take it, because I've already had people go, oh, wow, I didn't realize you were such a right-wing Nazi. And I'm like, because I care about my country. Like this is what it takes now. And it's getting exhausting because so many people agree, and we're seeing that with the swing towards One Nation, but still very few people are willing to go out on a limb and say the thing because they're afraid of the pushback. The longer it takes for more of us to collectively push back, the longer this goes on for it. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah, but that's where the gatekeepers, we talked about this before, I'll touch on it very briefly. It used to be that the gatekeepers would control the narrative. They'd control the story. They would stop people from being able to say the sorts of things that you and I say every single day. That paradigm is gone, and we're enjoying the benefit of that. So I think what we're seeing happen, just as an example with One Nation right now, would not have been possible 30 years ago. When Pauline started, she had some popularity, and then it kind of waned away, and really she sat there and she just kept on soldiering on anywhere from 2% to sort of 9%. She was just trending within that window for 30 odd years. And it is social media. It is the fact that the gatekeepers can no longer control the message the way that they used to, that has made it possible for us to do what we do, and has made it possible for someone like Pauline to bypass all of the editing, all of the editorializing, all of the creative kind of representation of her, and actually just reach people one-on-one through, via a screen. And all of a sudden people are like, hang on, she doesn't sound as crazy as what I thought I was told she was crazy. It doesn't sound like she's crazy. She actually sounds like my auntie or my grandmother. She's starting to sound a lot like me. And all of a sudden we see the kind of shift that we're observing right now. So I think the paradigm that you're talking about is very real, but I think it's already failed, and it's now on us to capitalize on the fact that the world is no longer like that.
Yeah, I would agree. I've got a clip from Chris Minns, who's kind of thrown a spanner in the works of Anthony Albanese's comments around the ISIS brides. Do you want to look at that quickly?
Yeah, let's go.
All
let's
right,
have some fun.
Look, the reality is that New South Wales government agencies have been working with the Commonwealth since the end of last year about possible arrivals from Syria, from refugee camps. It's been on an official to officials level, and it has to do with what happens if or when they return to New South Wales. I think the number is about a third, but that may change. And I don't have a complete number on that because I'm just not sure about how many, if any, will eventually end up in New South Wales or in Australia. And I think most Australians would recognise that they didn't make this decision to put themselves in harm's way. A 4-year-old or a 3-year-old hasn't made a decision to sign up with Islamic State. And if they were to return to New South Wales, then I think we need to be transparent. The New South Wales government would educate them, and we would make sure that they were safe, and we would make sure that they were within an organisation or a group or an education.
You mean like how Australia was the biggest exporter of people to Islamic State who grew up in Australia, who were put through our education system and then went over to fight with ISIS? That same education system, Chris?
So, but put yourselves in the position of a premier, because a premier does not get a choice about whether or not these people are allowed back into the country. And in fact, premiers don't have control over immigration and emigration between states. So once these people are allowed into Australia, a premier has absolutely no say over whether they come to their state or go to somebody else's state. So, and look, I'm no fan of Chris Minns, but I want to just be really realistic about the powers and the options that he does actually have. If the federal government says to him, we're letting these people back into Australia and we're putting this many of them into New South Wales, where do you want them? How would you like to go about this? The only options Chris Minns, the premier, has are around how it gets done, not whether it gets done. And so I think he's just being, in his defense, I think he's just being transparent and just saying, hey, this is likely to happen. We will communicate that with you once we have more details. And I'm just telling you up front, this is probably going to happen. I kind of don't have a problem with what he said there. From his position, he really doesn't have a choice.
It's not so much his position. It's more so it goes against what Albo said about how they weren't talking about it. All they did was get him the passport.
Sure. Yeah. But as much as, Yeah, but we know that Albo lies through his teeth. That's obvious. So I'm still waiting for that $275 discount on my power bills. Thanks, Albo. Can I get that and then the ASIO money and then the Mossad money? Can I just get that $275 first, please?
All I'm saying is apparently there's people running up a tab and it's time for me to go and collect.
That'll be a good day. That'll be a good day.
You know what? Every time we mention Avi or have Avi on our show, it's like cha-ching, cha-ching. I'm like, why is my bank account not going up? It's very disappointing.
Okay. I wanted him on the show so I could do that joke about burning his book. I'm like, I just want to be able to do that joke again. It's an old joke. I've done it twice already. I just wanted a third chance to do it with him sitting next to me on stage.
Well done. No, it was really interesting to learn about Somaliland. Like, I watch a lot of videos from Drew Binsky, Yes Theory, Bald and Bankrupt. I love watching people travel. And if I didn't have 2 dogs and now a beautiful man in my life, I would have done that. I would have been traveling to new places and probably not seek out, what do you call it? Like dark tourism. I probably wouldn't put myself in
conflicts tourism.
I have been to Iraq. I've been to the north of Iraq, and I've been to Syria. This is before ISIS took over. And I've said this on this podcast 1,000 times. I have never met more kind, hospitable people in my life. Like, my memories from Egypt, from Syria, from Iraq are wonderful. The people were genuinely warm and beautiful. It's just it's the extremists that ruin it. It's, I'm saying this now as someone that's met an Afghani woman from Kabul. They don't want the Taliban, right? The Taliban are the dictators. Like, actual Afghanis aren't cheering for this shit. I mean, a portion of them do, obviously, because a portion of them support the Taliban. But there's so many gentle, kind, considerate, beautiful people in these countries, unfortunately, enslaved by their governments. And it's really... It kills me because people will say, oh, Carly's racist for saying that about Payman, or she's racist for calling out fundamentalist Islam. I'm not. I love all people. I love traveling. I love going to different cultures, and I respect their cultures, by the way. I'm looking to go to Egypt in a couple of months' time, and I know full well that it will make my life easier if I just cover my hair as a Western woman. I know that when I went to Syria, I covered myself. That's their religion. That's their culture. I'm more than happy to be respectful. When you go into the citadels and things like that, you have to cover your shoulders. You have to wear long pants. There's a women's entry. There's a men's entry. I'll play by all those rules. Absolutely. I have no problem with that whatsoever in your country. But here in my country, when you tell me the way I think and the way our country is run and the way we behave and how poor our culture is, or that we lack culture, I'm sorry, but I take grave offense to that.
Yeah. Well, in those parts of the world, it's really sad because you're right. Not everyone is the same. It's the 97% that just ruin it for everybody else. That's really the problem. Now, speaking of 97% ruining it for everybody else, do we have Mexico lined up for this show?
I do have a lot of Mexico lined up. Where shall we start? Let me do.
I reckon that might be a good segue from here because, boy, talking about it kicking off.
Well, you know what I'm going to say. Guys, grab your drinks because there's going to be a whole lot of mentions of Nayab Bukele.
Oh boy, Carly's other boyfriend. Gee, you've got competition tonight.
We're going to meet him and we're going to have a ball of a time. Nayab does not know this, but I'm his greatest fan. All right. Here we go. Guys,
I think
this.
Nayab's security team know about you, though, because they're watching out for stalkers.
100%. No, they're watching me going, this Australian chick, we love her. Like, let's bring her out. That's what they're saying. They can get around me.
We probably shouldn't be laughing while we're watching pictures of cars exploding.
No, okay, let me play this with some sound.
Alrighty. So for those wondering what's going on, the Mexican authorities killed a pretty significant drug lord. I can't remember the name of the town, but they killed a pretty significant drug lord. And we're talking cartels over there. They're not like our underworld bikie gangs. These guys have their own militaries. And I think, Carly, I sent you a link earlier today. I don't know if you got that one teed up. But these guys have armored vehicles. They have rocket launchers. They have machine guns. They have bomb making equipment. And I'm not talking like backyard pipe IED stuff. I'm talking they've got access to proper blasting explosives for mine sites and military grade stuff. Yeah, look at this. Can you enlarge that, please? I don't think we need the audio. I'm told that that's not the police.
That's the cartel's military.
Yeah, that's the way that came to me was with an explanation. I had a look at the logos and so forth, and as best as I can tell, that's correct. This is not the police.
Well,
this is a drug cartel. Well, that's right. I mean, they've got the red and blue lights to get people's attention, to get them off the streets and out of their way. But this is actually, these are the drug cartels. This is how they roll. And how militarized they are. So, they've got Mexican colors on their badge. But when I tried to look up the actual logos, now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. If someone knows better than I do in the comments, because all I can do is look up what I can find online. So I might have this wrong, but my understanding is we're looking at the cartels right now.
Look, you cannot tell me that the current administration in Mexico aren't in cahoots with them in some capacity. I'm sorry, but there is just way too much money being exchanged for there not to be some kind of agreement between the two. I will not roll that one. Yeah.
So what's interesting is I sent you also a link to...
what's her name?
Sorry?
The Mexican president? What's the name of the chick?
I don't remember. The chick. I don't remember. I sent you a link along with that one. I sent you a link. She's come out saying that it would be wrong for the Mexican government to fight back because that would be basically a violation because that would be killing people without due process. Well, that would be correct if you'd captured them. That's not correct when they're out there killing people.
Let's have a listen, shall we? It might be...
All right, just turn the audio off. Yeah, read it out, yeah.
All right, hang on, let me play.
Guerra contra el narco no es opción. no es
It's not an
opción.
option. Oh, hang on.
Primero,
Hang on,
porque
hang on, hang
está fuera del marco de la ley.
Stop.
If you could just turn the sound off. There we go.
There we go. We'll start
All right,
again.
so
Sorry.
returning. You read. You go.
The narco is
returning-
not an option. It is not an option. First, because it is outside the framework of the law. All of these of the right wing that fulfill their mouths with the words rule of law and defend the war against the narco. The war against the narco is outside the law because, as I have said or have said on several occasions, it is permission to kill without any trial. And that in Mexico, nobody or very few are in agreement. It is outside the framework of the law. And secondly, it did not serve any purpose other than to increase homicides in Mexico and the level of violence. And these are called authoritarian because they are authoritarian. Is going towards fascism, returning to the war against the narco.
Yeah, so that's back to the start. So what we have here is the clearest possible contrast between your boyfriend in El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, who went hard and went hard enough that I was sitting there going, hey, like, ew, like he really is, in my opinion, right up against that line of what is and is not acceptable from a human rights point of view. And then we have this Muppet who's literally saying you can't even defend yourself. By her logic, if someone's killing you inside your own home, you can't possibly use force, but you couldn't risk killing them because that would be killing without a fair trial first. This is completely missing the principle of self-defense. A just war is predicated on self-defense in exactly the same way that fighting back against a home invader, fighting back against someone who's snatching your handbag, fighting back against a rapist or a murderer. This is predicated on the principle of self-defense. When you have a situation where you've got people setting off bombs, which is what they're doing, that's why all that smoke was coming up from multiple buildings. They bombed airports, they bombed transport terminals, they bombed buildings. And these were bombs that were designed to kill. This was not pyrotechnics for a Hollywood film. They were trying to kill people. This is genuine terrorism. This is the use of violence for aimed against civilians for political purposes. You have internal domestic terrorists who are out there killing people. At that point, even as a libertarian who is very concerned about human rights and the rights of the accused and all of that, when someone is waging war against you and is trying to kill your citizens, you kill them back. This comes back to the principle that I've discussed over and over again. I'll get through it very, very quickly here. The question you need to ask yourself is who has to stop killing in order for the killing to stop? It's that simple. Who needs to stop killing? The government can sit back and go, oh, no, we couldn't possibly want to kill somebody. The killing will continue because it's coming from the cartel in the first place. Who needs to stop killing? The cartel. So killing the cartel is actually the shortest pathway to the killing being over. That's how you stop the killing, is you kill the people that have to be killed in order for the killing to stop. It sounds confusing, but it's not. This is a real world test case, El Salvador versus Mexico. And I know who history is going to look on more kindly.
And this is why when Amnesty International or the United Nations try and come down on Nayib, he says, you don't speak for the El Salvadorian people. They like what we did. They now have peace. They now don't fear walking outside. El Salvador, I mean, I've said this 100 times, but it was the homicide capital of the world. It took Nayib 18 months to clean it up. How long have we been talking about the cartel in Mexico? How many big kingpin cartel leaders have there been? I mean, there was Escobar, then there was El Chapo. I don't know who this one is. Like, it kind of seems to be every decade there's like a new kingpin, and then there's like, you know, the Sinaloa versus the blah, 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 or whatever. You know, I only know, to be fair, my knowledge of cartels is based in Hollywood movies, so take it with a grain of salt. But, I mean, whenever we hear about it, it's always like, you know, this keeps happening. And why does it keep happening? Because people like her allow it to happen. She doesn't want change. If she wanted change, there would be change. Escobar was from Colombia. I know he was, but they operate through Mexico. Mexico is their entry to the US.
Can I make a movie recommendation? A movie that I thoroughly enjoyed is the movie Man on Fire. The one with Tom Cruise? No, Denzel Washington, Man on Fire. Allegedly based on a true story, allegedly, obviously very Hollywoodized, but allegedly based on a true story. And what it does really well is it shows you. So there's the Hollywood theme of this guy going and getting vengeance and rescuing this young girl that he'd been given. He was supposed to be protecting, and she gets kidnapped on his watch. And so he goes on this vengeance rampage to get her back and succeeds. But actually the B plot is a journalist and a non-crooked cop trying to help him without getting themselves killed. And that B plot is actually really interesting. And my understanding is that it's actually a really accurate representation of the dance that the good people in Mexico kind of have to play, even the ones with apparent levels of power, because one wrong step and someone will take you out.
I watched a TV show during COVID. It was called Queen of the South, and it was great. It was fantastic. I don't know if they finished the season off, if it got cut, but I mean, obviously, again, sensationalized. I don't know what's true or what's not, but it shows someone that was trafficked who then had no choice but to become part of the cartel. And I think that's how a lot of it, and that's certainly the way it was with MS-13 and a lot of the big gangs, even the one in Venezuela.
Yep. Tren de Agua.
That one. A lot of them have to join it. That's how they survive. And, you know, Topher and I have had discussions around El Salvador before about, like, you know, there has to be rules to it. You have to give people a trial. And I agree. But my point is, with El Salvador, being the homicide capital of the world, knowing full well that every time you go out your door, there's a chance you're going to die, there needs to be a circuit breaker. And that was building CCOT and imprisoning anyone that had MS-13 tattoos, any kind of association with them. And guess what? Overnight, homicide rate drops. Not overnight, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To hear
Safer than Sweden. Safer than Sweden now.
Yeah. And I mean, you just have to look at the last election. He got unanimously voted back in. He got like 94%. That's unheard of.
Crazy.
You don't even hear about that in Western
Oh
countries,
no, there was this one guy. There was this one guy when they hang on. I'm just trying to remember. He annexed Austria and he got about 96% of the vote. But I think besides him, that's probably the first time since then.
And I'm sure, actually, to be fair, Kim Jong-un or whatever his name is.
True, 99%. Yep. Yep.
No, 100% because he's perfect.
Yeah.
Don't insult the Supreme Leader. But yeah.
Sorry about that.
Often, and I mean, this is where you and I often butt heads, because I understand what you say on principle and on paper it looks really pretty, but the real world application is a lot messier. And when you're talking about death and when you're talking about catastrophic amounts of death, there does need to be some kind of, you know, like overplaying of the hand. And I know what you're going to say, Carly, but if you give that to the wrong side, I get it. But like, then what's the solution? And the solution is that you just, oh, sorry, guys, we have to deal with it because we interrupt the cartel, like we're the bad guys. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's in between?
In a situation like this, I mean, the Mexico situation is so clear cut. This is now a live shooting match. And whenever there's a one-way shooting range, the fastest way to save lives is to turn it into a two-way shooting range. That is the number one way to save lives. We see this over and over again, whether it's cartel behavior, where they're shooting up civilians and what have you, get the army shooting back, get the police shooting back, or when it's just a shooter in the US, for example, the minute a bullet comes back the other way, their body language, their behavior, their outlook, their focus completely shifts. You see from the first bullet coming back in their direction, lives are being saved from that point forward. When there is a one-way shooting match, you have to turn it into a two-way shooting match. This is the number one priority. And for the government to sit there and say, oh, well, no, we couldn't possibly. So the government has a monopoly on power, on force, on violence. That is kind of the modern day version of what government is for. You there?
Yeah, sorry, you just bumped for a second, but yep.
The modern day version is you don't need to have the capacity to bring violence. We will have a monopoly on violence and we will look after you. And for them to do that and then fail to look after you, fail to bring violence in return to violence, failing to turn a one-way shooting range into a two-way shooting range is a violation of the most fundamental principles of democracy as it's practiced. I disagree with it. I think we should all have the capacity for violence in defense of our own lives, our families, our property, etc. We should all be legally allowed to use violence where it's necessary. So I disagree with the premise. But if you believe in the premise, which clearly most government members and parliamentarians do, then you have to act on it. You cannot sit there and say, oh, there's a one-way shooting range. Oh, well, look, we can't shoot back. That'd be a violation of people's human rights. That is the most nonsensical insult to everyone's intellect.
Yeah, I would agree with you. But Yeah, I think at this point, if you're a civilian in these areas that are controlled by the cartel, whether it's in Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, no longer El Salvador, I mean, it must just be an incredibly difficult life to accept that no one actually wants to see the change. No one actually wants the help, which is the incentive to then, if you can't beat them, join them. So it's sort of this like self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, well, this is inevitable. I'm just going to participate in it. And then it just keeps going on. And then you have generations of it. I'm not pretending to have the answers, by the way. I'm just saying that that's my favorite quote. I got told off for not saying that last week. Intellectual depth of a puddle. Sorry, guys. That's most people in Australia at the moment.
I don't think that one was aimed at you. I think that's aimed at others.
No, that's my favorite quote, as in because I haven't used it. Is it Will? Will,
see.
did you say that to me on the weekend? He's like, you didn't use my quote.
Will, young Will.
Was it Will? Oh God, I'm so sorry. Remind me in the comments who mentioned that to me that I didn't use your favorite quote. Sorry.
The intellectual depth of a puddle. There you go. All right. I mean, look, it's no tangent time, but I'll let you have it.
It was a drinking word for a while, and then you told me off, so I stopped using it.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Anyway, continue. Shall we read some super chats?
Oh, sure. I've been showing them as we've gone.
Okay.
You know, so I think we're pretty well. No, the only one really that I think we should come back to is this. What happened to the Greens and the blocking of IBAC powers? For once they were on the right side of history, Vic Parliament shut down or session closed. I should have had a chat with Dave Limbrick about this on Saturday. I never got around to it, so I'm actually not sure.
The Labor pulled the bill.
That's right. Sorry, that's right. He told us about that. Yes, sorry. I do remember now. That's right, because he put forward some amendments and the Greens put forward some amendments and Labor were unhappy with the way this whole thing was going. And you're right. They actually pulled the whole bill. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There you go.
They don't work for us, do they? They don't care about what we actually need or want.
And yeah, it's that old thing of who's watching the watchers. You know, they're meant to be watching the government, but who's actually watching them and making sure that they're doing their job, that they have the powers to do their job, that they're not corrupt themselves. At the moment, nobody.
I will say, though, all of this upswing towards One Nation and people talking about Pauline Hanson, they're in a really tricky position here because, I mean, I watched your video today and that makes a lot of sense, but I think that any move they make to try and curtail her success will be seen as an act of treason and the broader majority of Australians will revolt. What that looks like, I don't know, but I mean, it would be a spectacular failure to the Albanese government if they were to do something so foolish. You will turn her into a martyr, and if anything, you're just going to play a recruitment game for her. It's the same as I've said. Sorry, go.
So you're going to make the point about the NSN, and you're correct. Like, this is why I don't want to play Thomas Sewell's nonsense on the show. It's like, why keep platforming him? The counter to that is, are you ready, everybody? Tolkien. And of all tyrannies, the tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims is the most oppressive. Understand, Albanese, if you ask Albanese why he wants One Nation to lose, it's not because he's power hungry. It's not because he's got an ego out the wazoo. It's because he has to protect Australians from her hate and her bile, and he wants to protect vulnerable Australians from her and from her horrible policies and all of that hate. He is sincerely believing that he's the good guy in this situation. And so what that means is actually there is no length to which they will not go, because they sleep well at night, believing that they are actually doing the right thing, that they are the good guys, that history will smile on them. What this fundamentally comes from, these people, you know, our politicians, even the leaders of the opposition, etc., you don't get there still believing in democracy. Ultimately, what they actually believe, well, kleptocracy, because it's based on theft, but they believe in a bureaucracy. They believe in an elite deciding how everyone else ought to vote, what everyone else ought to believe. And they sincerely believe that from time to time, democracies get it wrong. And it's their job to stop that from happening. In the case of Pauline Hanson, it's Albo's job. He's the prime minister, and pardon me, he's like the daddy, and there's a bunch of wayward children. And he has to step in and make sure that they can't make the wrong decision here. And so, and I genuinely believe that that's what he would sincerely believe about this situation. And so from that perspective, he's not worried about the populist backlash. If he can get her off the ballot, populist backlash, smacklash, who cares? They can't vote for her anyway. and he will have saved the day. I genuinely believe that that's how he sees himself. That's how the Liberal Party will see themselves. They are protecting the stupid idiot voters who can't be trusted from themselves.
I think you're giving Albanese a little too much credit, but sure, I'll run with that. I think Albo is an activist. That's all he is. He's an activist, worse still, with a chip on his shoulder. He's still very juvenile. I mean, what is he, like late 50s, early 60s? Albo is someone that has not progressed from his petulant adolescence. And you hear that whenever he brings up his bloody sob story about his mum and growing up in public housing. And that just comes out with everything. Everything he sees in this country is through that lens of him as a teenager. He is full of resentment. And that's why he refuses to take a position on the pro-Palestinian protests. He refuses to take a position on fundamentalist Islam. Is because he sees in them the same petulant little adolescence that he was, where it was me against the world. And that is how Albo, as our prime minister, is approaching foreign issues and voters' rights and the view of the public. And so what I think with Albo, it's actually quite superficial. Anyone that doesn't align with him is seen as the same bullies or the silver spoon public school kids that he was never when he was growing up. So they're the enemy. That's it. And in his mind, he wants to be the King Dick. It's so juvenile, the way he speaks down. He can't take a joke. Even the whole Albo Keeney thing, like any other prime minister would have lent into that. Can you imagine, what's his name? Bob Hawke.
He would have loved it. He would have loved it.
But then you've got like a butthurt baby juvenile prime minister in Albo who takes great offense to it. Like, grow up. You took this position to be at the head of this country. There are a lot of eyes on you. Naturally, many of them are going to dislike you and they're going to say silly things. Every time you bring that up and make it sound like it's some kind of horrible thing and that must be denounced, it makes you less and less of a serious person.
All right. So I want to bring up this comment here. The comment's good. 40 years ago, I grew up in Melbourne, moved to Brisbane. All my old friends turned woke. Listening to you guys is like my socialization now. Thank you. You're welcome, and thank you for being a part of it. I want to ask you, 35mm RAW, is that a reference to a sensor size and a file format? Are you a cinematographer? Or I don't know, maybe it's like something I don't want to know about. I don't know. But to me, that seems like a cinematographer type of handle there. So anyway, welcome. Thanks for watching the show.
I'm just reading the comments. Some of them I can't read out loud. Anyway,
no,
that's enough of that.
Some of them we definitely can't. Yes, next.
All right. So where are we?
All right, hang on. Sorry. Can I tell a funny story about this? So more Thomas Sowell, less Thomas Sewell. So Thomas Sowell, and I get the names mixed up, is a Black African American author. And he's a wonderful communicator, one of these people that just has the genius of language, and he can communicate more in a single sentence than most of us can in 500 words. Wonderful guy. He's on my bucket list to interview. He's getting on now, and I may run out of time, but he's on my interview bucket list if I ever get the chance. Thomas Sewell, of course, is who we know. So I was asked by my then brother-in-law, now ex-brother-in-law, do you know Thomas Sewell? And my head went to Thomas Sowell. And I'm like, yeah, I love him. He's great. He's like, I've read all of his books. He's like, what? How could you, I didn't even know he'd written any books, but how could you possibly like this guy? Turns out he was getting a job in security with the government, and they have to do a background on him to see whether he knows anyone who's dangerous. So he has to declare any potentially conflicted relationships he has. And so he's declaring me as his conflicted relationship because I'm one of the bad guys, obviously. And they gave him a list of questions that he had to ask me and then get back to them to then put on the record about me in relation to him knowing me. And there was this question, do you know Thomas Sewell? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, he's great. I've read his books. I'd really love to interview him before he dies. He's pretty old now. And he's slowly looking at me more and more weird. And I'm like, what? He's like, no. Thomas Sewell, the neo-Nazi? I'm like, oh, no, I have no idea who you talk, because I genuinely didn't. I paid no attention to these guys until I was kind of forced to a couple of years ago. So I nearly got myself into lots of trouble for bragging about how I'd read all of his books and I really wanted to interview him.
Well, not to quote, but I need to play this video from my mate. It may be needing me to read
A mí en
it.
El Salvador me decían, presidente.
Let me read the subtitles because I don't speak Spanish. All right. Are you watching?
Yeah.
Look at it. What a unit. What a cool looking dude. All right. I'll read you guys the subtitles. In El Salvador, people used to tell me, Mr. President, the solution to violence is to invest in education and opportunities. I answered, of course, you're right. If a country invests in education and opportunities, then those children won't become criminals. Or at least most of them won't. But you should have said that to the government in power 20 years ago, because the criminals we deal with today aren't 4 years old and ready to start kindergarten. These criminals have a degree in killing from Crime University. They have raped, they have killed, they have cut off heads, they have cut off grandmother's hands. The time to send them to school has passed. The time to give them an opportunity has passed. What opportunity could we give them? Could we pay them a stipend to stop committing crimes like some other countries do? They essentially pay them an incentive to engage in criminal activities. Now they're making money from crime and getting money from the government, while so many other youths are unemployed. What is the incentive for a young worker who does the best each day to make a few dollars and then for a gang member to come and take it from him? The perverse incentive is to be a criminal so that you can take the money and not a worker to have it taken from you. So, Mr. President, the only way to solve an insecurity problem that has already begun is through strength. Using the strength of the state. As I have said previously, any state is stronger than the criminal groups that operate within it. There is no state that is unable to fight the criminals. If a state doesn't overcome crime, it's because it is complicit or because parts of the state are complicit. Once a state frees itself from complicity with crime and takes strong action against the criminals, it will defeat them. Based. Love this man.
Yeah. I mean, look,
but I also love Nayab.
Yeah. That's not bad. It's not bad.
I'm sorry, but
there's some comments I cannot read.
Hang on.
There's some comments I cannot read.
There is
just gonna.
I love G, but I'm allowed to share.
I'm not reading that.
Love for Nayab. Getting snake. Whoa, that's disgusting.
I told you I'm not reading it.
Anyway, so I mean that's the position I take. That the time has passed, and it's same with a lot of the youths that are committing more and more crimes each day. It's the same with all of these fundamentalist Islamic extremists. Like there comes a time where all of that beautiful stuff is done. You can't fix them. I'm sorry, but a career criminal is a career criminal. Once someone's had a taste of that sort of power over someone, making someone feel hopeless and being able to steal from them. Like it's very difficult to get someone away from that. It's almost like a what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a bloodlust. I'll give you an example. Well,
it's a drug. They get addicted to the adrenaline rush, the sense of power and agency.
Well, it's power. It all boils down to power. I went to school with a kid who was fairly intelligent, but was always in, the naughty kid group, right? And in year 7, it was pretty obvious he was a bit disruptive. But I always got along with him, and he always towed the line. There were other people, I went to school with 200 kids in my year level, and I don't know how many people dropped out, but you kind of can always look in that year level and go, oh, you're a troublemaker. You're never going to make it. You kind of make all those guesses.
Sure.
And a lot of those ones who were troublemakers in the beginning ended up being good students and part of me have gone on to have good lives. And there was this one particular one that I was like, I would never have thought this of them. And I found out 2 weeks ago that this person's now a career criminal. This person is been in and out of jail. And it started with petty theft, and it's gone to full blown assault, robbery, what do you call it, with a deadly weapon, or
attempted murder? I don't know.
Not attempted murder, like when you rob someone and you've got a weapon.
It's like aggravated?
Yeah, aggravated robbery. I think that's what it is. Things like that. So the crime is only escalating. And it's interesting because there was hallmarks of that when he was young, and he kind of flied under the radar because there was way worse students. And now, I mean, to hear that of this particular person, I was quite shocked. I was like, shit, wow, of all the people, you are at least who I expected. But
sure.
And you sort of go, and it was interesting because I was fascinated. I was like, oh my God, like I was talking to a person from high school, and I said, what do you know? And I said, oh, I can tell you the rap sheet. And it was literally like petty theft, you know, breaking into a car, and then it just kept building and building and building. And you see that, you see the trajectory. And so, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we've got kids, and not to bring it back to the youth crime thing, but I think it's a good point. We've got kids as young as 12 and 13, and some younger than that, stealing cars, doing home invasions, holding machetes at that age. And that power that a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old would have over a grown-ass man with a machete to his throat while he's asleep in bed. How do you make them forget that? How do you take them back from that? I don't know if you can. People will tell me that these people can be reformed, but I dare say quite a few of them are too far gone.
So there's two things that I say, and you'll recognize both of them. I've said them both. Number one, when they're doing that, it's not their first crime. So if we dealt with them properly when we caught them doing something lesser, it wouldn't have escalated to that point. Now, the rate at which children are escalating these days is so much faster than it used to happen, but there is still the escalation. They're still doing petty theft before they're charging you with machetes, right? That still exists. So we need to actually get really tough on them in the early stages so that they don't get the chance to escalate. But point number two, this is why I've said, and I don't say this with any glee, but if you are a family member of one of these youths that's heading down that path, get all of his uncles, get all of the older men in his life together in a room, lure him in there and beat the ever-loving crap out of him, break his pelvis, put him in traction for 6 months, make him eat through a straw for 3 months. And I don't say that because I want to be cruel to him. I'd say that because it's going to take a circuit breaker of that magnitude to save this person from killing themselves in a car crash or killing somebody else in a car crash or a stabbing or a machete attack. If you care about this kid, put them in hospital for 6 months so that all of that life can be gone and you can completely reset all their attitudes and all of their life. Catch and release, sending them back onto the street the way that our justice system does today is cruelty to them and to their future victims.
Yeah, and I agree with this, Channel Master 73, that disruptive kids can't do the bookwork and they get left out of class. They need to be taught differently. That was certainly the case back when we were going to school because there was only one way to do the curriculum, but it's very different these days. I mean, they've got aids in there. They've got different ways of doing things. I mean, if anything, they're creating more disruptive kids or just sedating them with bloody drugs. But
yeah, it's a lot of that.
I mean, you may not have heard me say this before, but just at the risk of repeating myself, I'm really harsh on our education system. Our education system has failed so many people, my brother included. You know, my brother was one of those people that had he been put into a trade school young or gone to, what do they call it? Not trade school, but vocation training or something like that, he would have done really well. My parents pushed him all the way through year 12 and he hated it and resented it. You know, and saying to a lot of these kids that, you know, going and doing a trade or dropping out of school is a bad thing. I totally disagree. So many of you shouldn't be at school. School to a certain point, by the way. But encouraging people to go down a different path, whether it's an apprenticeship or something like that, where they can do on the tools learning. You know, there's people in my year level that went off to do apprenticeships, plumber, carpenter, whatever. They were earning more money than we could have dreamed at by like 20. And buying their first houses and stuff, you know. So
and the
you
thing
put
is,
people in the right environment, and they thrive.
The premise always was, but if you finish university, you'll end up earning more. That hasn't worked out. That hasn't actually proved to be true. There are lots of people working office jobs with master's degrees in something or other, and they're being out-earned by the plumber.
Whoa. Are you taking the dig there?
I am absolutely throwing shade at master's degrees, and I'm also aware that people needed a chance to drink, so I thought I'd bring up your masters. So plumbers The plumber they have to call to fix their sink because they have no idea what they're doing, and then they have to wait a week before they arrive and pay them $200 as a call-out fee before they've even done any work. That dude with his ass crack hanging halfway out of his ill-fitting shorts is earning double the money they are, and they've got a university degree. One of the most successful people that I personally knew as a younger man was a guy who worked at the same place I worked at, driving forklifts and picker packing and big warehousing job. And he'd left school early, but he was focused and he knew exactly what he was going to do, and he executed it well. Worked his ass off in whatever would pay him the most. So that was laboring type jobs, hard work, outdoors, unpleasant, whatever. It didn't matter. He would go and do it. He shoveled all of that money into buying holiday homes that were cheap down on the south coast of Victoria before the big boom happened. We're talking 20 years ago, 25 years ago, probably when he started. By the time I knew him, he already had 3. He was early on the Airbnb wave. And so he rode that, and he ended up with, I think, 7 houses that I know of, all in close proximity. He had 1 cleaner or 2 cleaners trained, but he had 1 cleaner most of the time, just prepping them for the next client, blah, blah, blah. It all went through the Airbnb website. Last I heard from him, I haven't heard from him for a little while. Last I heard from him, he'd moved to Vietnam with his long-term partner, who is Vietnamese, and is living like a king. That's the last I heard, right? Here's this guy, and he not being unkind to him, love you, Dave, sorry if you watch this and you feel insulted, he probably didn't have what it took to do university. And so I think he had the gift of really knowing that that wasn't an open pathway. Sometimes having all the options can actually be paralyzing. I think he recognized that's not an option for me. And so he went this way, and he went hard, and he's done better than almost anybody else I know.
I think I've said this before, but I went to university for graphic design, and I got the tertiary degree because I was told, especially when I was looking at those professional jobs I wanted to pursue, that you needed a tertiary education. That's the only reason I did it. And forgive me for, again, repeating myself if you guys have heard it. During that 3 years, I went to Deakin Warrnambool, and it was visual communication and design. So I did a lot of art theory as well as practical stuff. And my lecturers at the time were the old school graphic designers, the pre-computer graphic designers. And they're trying to teach us these really archaic versions of Photoshop and things like that. And they taught us a program. This is a great example. They taught us a program called Quark. If anyone remembers Quark Express, you might know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do actually.
Quark had already been ousted from the industry. Everyone was already using InDesign. But whilst going to uni, I got taught Quark. And when I was going for my first jobs, 3 years later, I graduated top of my class, high distinctions the whole way. I was, the best student in the class. I couldn't get a job. And I was so beside myself because I'd suffered under this illusion that I was the best in my class. It was going to be easy. I was going to walk into an amazing advertising job. And it was the most horrible reality check because nowhere along the line did anyone say, oh, you can be at the top of the class and still not get a job. And I remember getting really upset because I was living in Warrnambool, and I wanted to move back to Melbourne and I could not get a job. I'll tell you how I got into the industry. I went to the Warrnambool Standard, which was owned by Fairfax, and it was a regional office for the Age newspaper. And I went in there with my big portfolio and this big bravado, I was the best in my class and blah, blah. And who ended up being my boss said to me, he's like, you've got good taste, but you're going to have to do an apprenticeship. I said, what? I've got a degree. And he's like, you don't know any of the things that we need you to do. He's like, we're happy to take you on, but you're going to have to do this apprenticeship to get to where you want to go. And I remember thinking I was so insulted, but at the same time I was like, well, fuck, I've been applying for jobs for 9 months. This is the best I've got. And every job interview I had in Melbourne, they all said the same thing. Your portfolio is great, just not what we need, blah, blah, blah. No one gave me the feedback you're just not qualified. So I went and I took the job at the Warrnambool Standard and I loved it. I was there for a year and I actually had a really great time. And I learned how to use InDesign from scratch. They gave me on-the-site training. I learned more in that year on press, on how to do newspapers, on deep etching, on InDesign, on layouts than I did in 3 years of university. I got paid to learn it. And at university, I paid almost $20,000 for the privilege of a piece of paper that to this day, no one has ever asked to see. Yeah. Not once. No one has ever asked me to prove it.
This is pretty much a universal principle. There's a joke that I'll tell the very short version of because it's kind of just repeating what we've already talked about. But there's the joke about the guy who graduates from university, law school, top of his class, thinks he's the duck's guts, goes and starts applying for jobs, gets a job instantly at a prestigious law firm. He thinks he's walking in there for the corner office. In first day there, the owner, one of the partners comes out, one of the founding partners comes out. Oh, it's wonderful to have you. Wonderful to be able to be in the position to be able to bring people from the very top of the class from such a prestigious university. Let me show you around. And he walks into office after office, showing him around, introducing him to people and all the staff and the teams and everything else. And every time he opens a door, the new recruit's thinking, oh, this could be my office. This could be it. And he's watching the view from everyone else's offices. He's thinking, where's mine? Where's my corner office? And then eventually they get towards the end of the day and the founding partner walks up to a very humble looking door. And he says, well, this is where you're going to be starting. And he gets excited. He's like, okay, finally, this is the reveal. And the guy opens the door and it's the broom closet. And he hands him a broom. And this star recruit is offended. He says, what? Excuse me. I'll have you know, I was top of my class at this prestigious university. And the founding partner says, oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. I remember you went to university. Here, let me show you how to use the broom. Right. But it's true.
Yeah.
When you're going from the education system to the real world, you start at the bottom. You can be at the very top of the education system if you like. Well done, you. That might mean that someday you'll end up at the top of the real world, but not when you start.
100%. And it honestly, like, you know, that happened, God, almost 20 years ago now. And do you know what happened? I did that 1 year at the Warrnambool Standard, and then I moved to Melbourne and I got a job for our competitor, which was News, so Murdoch's company. And I went straight in. I kid you not. And remember, I had been applying for a good 9 months. After a year of apprenticeship at the Warrnambool Standard, I come to Melbourne and I get thrown into this job, a maternity leave position for $70K back in 2006. I was a 1 year out junior designer on $70K, which is outrageous because I had more knowledge about pre-press and I was so much more valuable because it was a maternity leave position that they took me on, even though I was severely underqualified and inexperienced, because I just slid right into their work structure and I could hit the ground running. And I just remember thinking, like, you know, it hit my ego. I was like, well, what would I have been, 20 years old? It hit my ego, but it was the best lesson in humility. And again, it put me forward eventually later. So I think, you know, now when I talk to people, I'm like, if there is a TAFE or if there is some kind of trade element to your career, please do that. Don't go to university. I'm not saying that uni's bad. I've been to them twice now. Like, I'm not anti-uni, but there's different ways to learn, and anything that relies on skill, like needing to learn tools and things like that, I think hands-on practicality is way better. And also if you can learn and get paid, even better.
Now, I don't want to have a late one tonight because I've got to be up early for this conference starting tomorrow, but there's at least one topic that we haven't. I'm more important than you. I'm just trying to find a subtle way of saying that I'm more important than you. There is one topic we haven't touched on that I really do want to touch on, but how many of you kind of got left?
Nothing that can't wait until Wednesday. If you got something better.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about Senator Alex Antic being snapped and photographed at a street-side cafe having a chummy conversation with the new leader of the South Australian One Nation Party, Cory Bernardi, because there's some really interesting stuff going on with this. Obviously, the South Australian election is coming up very soon. This is a state election. Labor are expected to absolutely thump everybody else, and I think that will happen. I think that's genuinely baked into the cake at this point. I don't think there's a single thing that Liberal, National, or One Nation could do that would change that outcome, in my personal opinion. But it's very interesting to see. So obviously, Alex Antic is a senator for the Liberal Party in One Nation. So that's federal. Sorry, not in One Nation, in South Australia. So he's a federal senator for South Australia, and he is under the Liberal Party. Cory Bernardi has signed on to lead One Nation in the South Australian state election. So we're talking different parties and also entirely different parliaments. Why are they talking to each other? And more importantly, why are they talking to each other sitting outside on a busy street in broad daylight where they know they're going to get seen? Why would they do that?
Deliberate. That's deliberate.
It was either deliberate or it was reckless. And I don't think it was reckless in the sense that they didn't think of it. I think it was reckless in the sense that they don't care. So this means one of two things. Either Alex Antic is there as an envoy of the Liberal Party, and so he doesn't mind if there's photographs because the Liberal Party already knows having these conversations, right? This could be discussing preference-related stuff. But honestly, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They're in separate political parties. They're in separate parliaments, going for separate parliaments. They're in separate parties. They have backroom people for that job. Why have a senator doing party business on a footpath? This was personal between those two men, from one to the other. And it's very evident to me that Alex Antic does not care about the rumors that are going to get started. Now, that either means because there's absolutely nothing to them, and so he doesn't care because whatever, let people talk. We're just having a catch up. Or that he's actually happy for people to talk, that he doesn't mind this association happening. I don't think anything's going to happen with Alex Antic for this South Australian election. It makes no sense in my mind for him to step away from his position as a senator for South Australia in the federal parliament to run for an opposing party in state parliament where he will lose his Senate seat, right? That would be the end of that. That doesn't make sense to me. Is it possible that he's positioning for a defection before the next federal election? Well, that is definitely possible. And let me put the for case before I put the against case. Senator Alex Antic has a long record now of abstaining from votes where the party is voting in a way that he cannot in good conscience agree with, and sometimes actually crossing the floor and just voting against the party, right? Yeah. So I should have re-researched this before now, but I believe I'm correct in saying that Senator Antic abstained from voting for the most recent hate bill. He might have actually voted against it. I don't recall, but he did not agree with the Liberal Party.
Saying I don't recall.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm triggered by that. Please stop.
He did not vote with the Liberal Party on that. And credit to him, because that comes at a cost. He's never going to get a front bench. He's never going to get a ministerial position. He's never going to get any of these Senate committees that give him extra money, blah, blah, blah. All that's off the table because he won't play ball. He won't just do as he's told. So I have massive respect for him. So a defection is possible. It's not out of the question. But what's interesting about him in his case, the way the Liberal Party usually deal with defectors and people who don't sort of toe the line is they put them in an unwinnable Senate position. This is how they get rid of the people they don't really like all that much. They put them in third or fourth, where fourth, they're pretty much never going to win. And third, there's no guarantee that they will win. The problem in South Australia is that Alex Antic was wise to that strategy, and he has got massive grassroots support in South Australia. He's got, when it comes to the branch voting for who's going to be number one on their Senate ticket, he gets it every time. So he's got a safe Liberal seat. So there's a couple of possibilities here, and I don't know which one is true, but this is what's called a high variance act. Like him choosing to have that coffee with Cory Bernardi in broad daylight in public either means absolutely nothing, or it means absolutely everything and nothing in between. This is a high variance. It's a polarized move. I think what it means is that Antic is aware that the Liberal Party are going to try and get rid of him at the next election. I think it means similar to when Scott Morrison made his captain's calls and he saved Susan Lay's hide. He saved a bunch of other MPs that were getting pre-selection challenges by making a captain's call. I think he's aware that his days in the Liberal Party are numbered, or he's aware that his ability to tolerate the Liberal Party is running out, that on principle he's going to change, or that he's going to get ousted, one or the other. And I think that he's actually beginning to position himself for One Nation for the federal election. And he doesn't mind his association and all of that talk helping them at the upcoming state election. I actually think I'm going to come down on the side of saying, I think that Senator Antic having coffee with Cory Bernardi and choosing to do it in broad daylight the way that they did in plain sight is highly significant. I'm going to come down on that side, but it's one extreme or the other. It means nothing or it means a hell of a lot. I'm going to come down on the side of a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it's South Australia's elections before ours, isn't it? Theirs is in the next month. End
of March.
Why is old mate Peter doing so well? Like, what has he done for South Australia? Because, look, I'll happily tell you, I don't really pay a lot of attention over there. What has made him have such a strong support?
I can't tell you. I don't know. I don't follow South Australian politics. South Australia is its own place. They've got the same chip on their shoulder that West Australia have, but they have less reason for it. Like West Australia at least can kind of go, well, we've got resources in mining and blah, blah, blah. South Australia are just like, sorry to all the South Australians. But South Australia
had been... I got told
off
on the weekend for saying that about South Australia. Someone was very butthurt over that.
I thought I did well on the live show asking, is anyone here from South Australia? And then no one put their hand up and I just said, good. So
I said,
the thing with, the thing with South Australia is they have been on the receiving end of enormous amounts of funding from the rest of us for a very long time, from keeping their car factories alive to keeping their shipyards alive to keeping the lower lakes full of fresh water instead of being an estuary. South Australia are being looked after enormously in a whole bunch of ways that they do not appreciate. They take 100% for granted. And if anything, they will tell you that they're hard done by. And I think the opposite is obviously true, but they will tell you that they're hard done by. Just get them talking about the lower lakes. And gosh, the levels of ignorance and the levels of entitlement are absolutely extraordinary. And so there's something about South Australian politics that seems to me to be really entitled, more so actually, believe it or not, more so than Victoria. Victorians are entitled, but they actually produce a lot more economically. South Australians are entitled irrespective. So it's just this fascinating, I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what's going on there. But Witness, for example. Sorry, you go.
I've spent a lot of time in South Australia. I've been to Adelaide, God, like 30, 40 times, a lot of times.
Yeah.
I don't mind it as a place to go. My issue
Adelaide's pretty.
Yeah, it's very pretty, but it feels very small town to me as it does to a city. And the only reason I went there is because there was people there I wanted to see, not because there was anything that drew me to Adelaide. But there's parts of the South Australian coast, like is it the Eyre Peninsula and things like that, look absolutely spectacular. But from what I understand, that's all very, very remote.
Well, it's a beautiful part of the world, and it's a very varied state as well. You go from the southeast of South Australia up to the northeast of South Australia, and you've seen really the extremes. Apart from jungle, that's kind of the only thing you haven't seen. It's a beautiful state in many, many ways, but it's politically, it's really interesting. And so my opinion is that South Australians have gotten very used to being given freebies. And Peter Malinauskas has been good at securing the freebies. Things like the AUKUS submarines, right? All that's going to get done in South Australia, maintenance in West Australia and Sydney, but the shipbuilding and a whole bunch of this stuff's going to go on in South Australia. They're securing these big money industrial type of contracts. We saw that it recently failed, but we saw them trying to do the whole hydrogen green energy thing in association with, was it aluminium smelting? The federal government spent a fortune trying to get that up, and then it recently fell over. And this is the story with South Australia over and over again. We spent a fortune keeping the car factories going. They fell over anyway. We spent a fortune on shipbuilding. We don't have a lot to show for it. This is the story with South Australia. And to me, it seems like an entitlement. That's my read on it. And I'm going to be offending lots of people, but hey, be offended. And it seems that Peter Malinauskas has managed to tap into that really well. But I don't say that from someone who has a deep knowledge of South Australian politics.
The comments are going off. Can I say this? I have been to every state and territory in our good country, and I like them all. I mean, I'm very agreeable, to be honest. I love WA. I loved South Australia. I haven't been to Darwin. That's the only capital city I haven't been to, but I've been to Uluru and I've been to Alice Springs. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like every state kind of has its own thing, and I appreciate it for that. Like whenever I go up to the Goldie, I always have a ripper time in the Goldie. I couldn't live there. No offense, Goldie people. I love coming out for a visit. Brizzy, I love Brizzy too, but you don't have a beach. Your river's pretty, but the fact there's no beach, sorry, I strongly oppose that. Anywhere north of that, too hot, too humid, fuck off, no thanks. Although, geez, Mum does live in Cairns, and so we have to go up there soon. And last time we went up there was so hot. I literally just sat there like this. I couldn't move. And everyone else was like, it's not that hot. Meanwhile, it was like 400% humidity. But yeah, I think every part of Australia is pretty cool. But I mean, everyone seems to get so up in arms about stuff.
Are you getting splinters in your butt from sitting on the fence there? So Liberty Prime.
I mean that. I genuinely mean that.
Liberty Prime says, what? Adelaide has close to 2 million. Has close to 2 million people now. It's not a small town, sure, but it's still got nothing on Albury. I'm sorry,
to be fair, Geelong's probably bigger. It's not. No, it's not. But
it's probably.
It feels
all right. I need to call it. I can't go on for too much longer tonight. So I'm sorry. I'm going to pike out. Yeah, I'm going to be the quitter.
And do you want to update people about Wednesday?
Well, okay. So the situation with Wednesday is tricky. I am on a plane back to my home at the time when the show is supposed to start. And I will have been in Sydney all day. So we can't pre-record the show like we normally would. So I'm not sure. What do people want us to do? Have a late live show? Skip a show? Just Carly do a solo show, like just 3 hours of Carly just telling us what she thinks is wrong with us and how crappy Australians are, and just chicken in the noodle aisle, chicken in the noodle aisle, just on repeat, just over and over again.
You know what's funny? It's funny you say that. Can I end on a good note? It's a little bit of good news, since we won't have good news on Wednesday. I sent my thesis to Jordan Peterson. And unfortunately, Jordan's not in good health. But his personal assistant, his gatekeeper, Jordan, who is also Jordan.
Jordan's Jordan. Yep.
And they took, like, he took my thesis. He said, unfortunately, Jordan's not in a position to read it, but we are working on a special magazine that we'd love to include this in, because this actually fits perfectly what we're doing. So
well done. Nice. That's cool. Yeah. Excellent. And just remember me when you're famous, please. Just, there's that guy I used to know.
I'll pretend I don't know you, and people just keep putting out clips of the Oddcast. Like, no, that's not me. That's my doppelganger.
It's AI. It's all AI. Yeah.
AI. So so you're at a conference tomorrow and Wednesday. TOEFL's more important, everyone, just so you know.
Yep. Just trying to make sure I establish that fact.
So what about Thursday? Can we throw a spanner in the works?
Oh, wow. I'm not coming down to Melbourne. I've done Melbourne twice in a week, and then Sydney. But I could do a live show on it. Well, okay, hang on. I'd have to move my date night, because my date night's on a Thursday, sorry, normally. So I would have to have the date night with my wife on a different night. She's sitting over there. She can hear me, but she's ignoring me. Let's just say yes, and I will deal with the wife later.
Eddie, it's required. In other good news, I'm just bringing it up on screen now. Give me 2 seconds. We have, if I can pull it up. Come on. Merch. Oh, hang on.
Yeah. We have new stuff.
They are back, friends. So if you missed out last time, this is a new version. The colors are a little bit different, and it's like a stone-washed black. It's not a black tee.
This is like retro. This is like retro. The other one was like modern retro. This feels pretty authentic retro.
Yeah, I was just mixing it up a little bit just to be fun. I put the Tangent Time on the front this time. But we did actually sell quite a lot of them on Saturday. So there's not heaps left. If you'd like one, you can jump on. I won't make Tangent Time again, I don't think. I think after this one, that's 2 runs of Tangent Time. We'll pause with the DeLorean and try something new. If anyone's got any ideas for the next T-shirt, let me know.
Yep. Now, this one's been super popular. Can you also show the new 1984? So we had the original 1984, which I am wearing. I'm repping the original. Can you make me big for a second? Hang on. I'll make me big. For a second.
Do something, would you? Do I have to do everything?
Yes. All right. So this is the original 1984. It's got the camera up in the corner there. Awesome design. I absolutely love this. This has been discontinued and it's never coming back. If you didn't get one, bad luck. You're never going to get one. However, as I did say at the time, we're going to keep the theme because the message is important. Just the design is going to change. This is the new design. So the camera is now integrated into the 8 on the 1984. Too much 1984, not enough 1776. It can be read more easily from a larger distance. And it brings in the new color schemes and all of that. I think this is a super cool design, and it keeps that theme going. Then also we have a brand new Think Free, which is keeping up with that sort of grayscale theme. So we had the TOEFL tee that has like a bunch of my different sort of slogans and sayings on it, which is there on the left there where Carly is. That TOEFL tee. Now this one here, the Think Free, is really cool. It has Think Free on the front. It's making sense of the nonsense. TOEFL field established 2009. Yeah, because I can say that because guess when I started? 2009. And show on the back.
Oh. Eep.
Just has a really nice subtle logo TF across the between the shoulder blades there. So these are the new designs, and get them while you can. Grab a hoodie, please, because I've got a bunch of money tied up in hoodies, and I want to do a big new lineup of merch for winter, but I need to get back some of the money that I've already spent on the existing hoodies and stuff. So buy one of the hoodies. It's the history hoodie is the awesome, like super high quality one. The Good People Break Bad Laws hoodie is still the original type of hoodie that we used to have. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not as nice, but it's also cheaper. So there's that, like you get what you pay for. But grab a hoodie, grab a couple of these new t-shirts, and you're going to be helping me to be able to get Carly to make a bunch of new designs for winter styles to come out in a couple of months' time. We got one vote here for a 1776 hoodie. I would love to bring back a 1776 hoodie, but guess what? I need to sell some things because those hoodies are expensive to make. And actually, in terms of margin, they're actually a lower margin product as a percentage. They're a lower margin product than the t-shirts are. So we've actually had to cut our margins just to keep the price where it is. And I recognize they're not cheap, and I apologize for that. They're not, but they're a brilliant high quality garment. And yeah, we've had to cut our margins. So I want to bring in more hoodies, but I've got to sell some of the ones I've got.
I said to Toph when I was taking over the clothing that we're going to make clothing that lasts, clothing that people will want to actually put on. And that's where we ended up. So everything's like super high quality now, and you pay for it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we do have
100%.
two requests. One for a post turtle t-shirt, which that's fun. We could do that.
That's fun. Yeah.
And the idea I
like
had
it.
for the next Oddcast t-shirt was like a Grand Theft Auto style with like all the different comic strip things of stuff we talk about on the Oddcast. I don't know. Is that a cool thing? That's kind of where I was going.
I don't associate Grand Theft Auto with comic strip. You kind of lost me with the link up there.
The Grand Theft Auto art. You know what I'm talking
about? Like I played a lot of Grand Theft Auto back in the day. I'd collect my money from those prostitutes afterwards. Don't you worry about that. What I don't know is how, like, the comic strip thing. That's not a thing.
It's not really a comic strip, I guess, but it's like this. Where are we?
You mean the posters, like the game covers?
Yeah, like that. Like the game covers, like this. Why does this always happen to me? I don't want the video. Go away, video.
Why does it always rain on me?
Like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. That sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And there was a request for Spicy Carlz, but I just don't know.
Yeah. Look, no one cares. No one cares.
If we make the shirts and only one person buys it. We'll make
no one
buy
cares.
the rest of them.
No.
All right, I've got a cup of tea to get to.
Yeah, I am going to piss off, but huge thanks for the shout out video from my friend and his father. I'm very happy to have done that for you, Eric. Thanks for hanging out with me afterwards. Sorry?
I also did one for Eric.
Oh, very good. Well done. And then 2 shows is the even cast. Keep it as an odd number, please. 3, 5, 7, or 9 visits to Melbourne per week. Okay. All right. You want us to do 9 shows a week?
You make a good point, CJ. You make a good point.
Yeah. No, I know I left Melbourne for a reason. I'm not commuting to Melbourne every single damn day. That's not happening.
Conveniently, this is actually adding to my ammunition to convince you that I will never move to Albury, but it would make way more sense for you economically to move back to Melbourne.
No, it would not. You have no idea how good it is in Albury. That's honestly, you are living inside a prison and you think you're free. That's literally what's going on here.
He says this to me as I walk to the beach every morning, like, sorry, but no chance.
Yeah. And you step over the dead bodies and around the broken glass on your way there. Yeah, no problem.
None of that on my beach. Thank you very much. My area, my little slice of paradise is like going back to Australia 20 years ago, and I will keep it this way.
Yeah. But you thought you had a slice of paradise at the last place until you got broken into twice, and neighbours and
that happened
high-speed
within
car
2 weeks of us
chases.
living there.
Yeah, the bubble burst pretty quick, I got to say. Anyway, I got to go. Bye, everybody. I should probably hit the button, shouldn't I? Is that? Hang on, button. Hang on, my glasses. Just hang on. Button. Yep. Okay. Bye.